a good question.
All right, I'm live. As we look back over how Waypoint... Oh, gosh.
Definitely gonna use that.
Yeah, thank you.
See, I'll be shouting. I gotta be quiet.
Everything does is magic.
I've been coming to church here for about a year and a half now.
Actually 3 years, but
The reason
it's actually been.
That's where I edit, see?
I was gonna say, we've been coming to Waypoint for 3 years. But don't get us arguing.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say having a baby there?
Yeah, you can say that.
My heart exploded. Can you get that?
I didn't press the button. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
My highlight has been collecting all the swag. Check that out. I'm a little thirsty. Hold on. Ready to take any notes?
Do we need to read it? Can we jump?
You can do
Happy Oh dear. People are watching.
You ready? You are live. Everything will be used against you at this point.
Okay. Happy 5 years!
Try again.
What did you say?
I don't know, 5 points. Anything else you want to say?
No.
As we look back to the story of Waypoint's beginnings, and we wanted to share with you all the impact Waypoint has had in different people's lives, we thought, why not go back where it all began, when 10 strangers met in a bar here at the lodge. So come on, let's go check it out. It really began when my wife and I went to a church planting conference. We were up at this conference in Huntersville when she looks at me midway through and says, Wes, you've been studying church planting for 7 years. I kind of feel like you're Jonah and I'm the sailors and I just need to throw you overboard. Why don't we just go and do it? And in that moment, suddenly I realized a young mother with 4 children in diapers, if she could take that risk, what was holding me back? And I realized in that moment that I needed to lean into this calling I felt by God to begin a church in Charlotte. And so I began to pray and think and wonder what God might want. And I called up a friend of mine. He was the first person that I was going to share this idea with. Called him up and we went to Starbucks uptown and I began to kind of talk about it very hesitantly, nervous, anxious, wondering what he was going to think, when all of a sudden sitting next to us was this homeless man. And as I told this story, the homeless man suddenly popped wide awake. He had been asleep. His eyes went wide and he looked straight at me and he goes, young man, you must go where God sends you. And then he fell back asleep. And I looked at my buddy and I was like, oh my gosh, that is an amazing God moment. What confidence, what confirmation from God in this moment, and just was amazed in it and now just fully energized about this idea, this mission God was putting on my heart. When then a few moments later, the homeless man woke up again and he looked at me and he said, young man, in Isaiah 68, it says that God has us inscribed on the palms of his hands. And I knew in that moment there's no Isaiah 68, that he's not right in that biblical reference, and it kind of deflated my sails a little bit, that maybe he was just kind of the Bible guy and had missed the mark on that. And so I went home a step slower. When the next week I flew to the national conference for this new denomination, ECO, that I was getting involved in. And the opening worship service, the speaker came out on stage and she said our central text for the sermon today is going to be Isaiah 49:16, where God promises that he has us inscribed on the palms of his hands, the very place where Jesus went to the cross to die for us. And in that moment, in that message, I just wept like a baby because I knew this is what God had laid on my heart. And so I called up some friends, some relationships, some people I had met, and invited them to come to this bar, to come to this lodge, to this very table when 10 strangers met in this bar. And when I got here, I intentionally grabbed the middle chair around the table so I could manage all the conversations of these 10 people who had never met before. And I realized 15 minutes into that time, they were all talking to each other, and I had no one to speak with. In that moment, Waypoint began to grow out its core vision of a genuine community. where we say at Waypoint, we want to be more about relationships than programs. And in that moment, I watched the genuine community of strangers getting to share table fellowship and getting to know one another. And that became a hallmark of our community as it grew from the 10 strangers to then the people who gathered in my house with Lindsay on Tuesday nights to pray and to plan for the church. As we moved over to Sarah and Rudy Hayden's house to prepare for our first public worship service. And I remember the first public worship service we held at Myers Park High School. And I grabbed the microphone to welcome everybody when suddenly the microphone wire went completely dead. And God laid on my heart in that moment the words, "We're not going to be perfect and polished. This is who Waypoint is. We're not going to take ourselves seriously, but we're going to take Jesus Christ seriously." And that's how our first worship service launched. And that's become such a hallmark of our community. And so I love that the first praise and prayer moment of that very first worship service, a father of 2 boys raised his hand and he stood up and he shared in front of a room full of strangers that he had lost his job that week and had asked us to surround him in prayer. And from that moment, we began to live out this identity of being a place where people could come and see the goodness of Jesus Christ so they could go and be that to the watching world.
And we were on a bike ride, and Wes had mentioned that he was starting a church, and there was going to be an information meeting at his house or out at some restaurant near Ray Road. And I mentioned it to Sarah, and she was like, "Sure, let's go." And so we opened up our house for an information meeting shortly thereafter.
And so Wes told us what he was doing, and we just were like, yes, we feel the whisper. We felt that God was calling us to do something different. We had been at the same church for 20 some years.
I remember Rudy saying, this really nice guy is starting a church, and I want to make sure people will show up for him. So I want to go just to show, so somebody will show up.
Here's a great funny story about Wes. He used to say, is anybody going to come back? Is anybody really going to be there the next Sunday? And I kept saying to him, you're going to be surprised by God. You're going to be surprised by God. And God kept surprising us.
You come in on a Sunday and people know who you are, and you don't get lost in the shuffle. And even as the churches began to grow, that people still know you, and it doesn't feel like a big church.
Even since moving to Nashville, the genuine friendships that we made at that church have stayed with us.
Life is complex, messy, and hard, and so being able to share messy life stuff with people is a special part of Waypoint.
Waypoint was having I don't even know what they called it back then, maybe a congregational meeting, because there was only 50 of us. And for some reason I was moved to go see what it was about. And Pete's guy said it, he goes, "I envision us taking kids on mission trips." It went off clear as a bell. Like, yes, this is me. I'm gonna take kids. I meet with Keith Gershio. He announces that Robbie Bowers is committed to going to Djibouti, and he and I go, and I come back and I talk it up. So 5 guys go the second time. 27 guys last year. We took 32 guys this year. The people there get to me. I just love the people, the children especially, anything for the kids in my heart. It's been great, the support from the church. We donated a piece of equipment in the woodworking shop the first year, and every year I go back, I love to see it, and I love to hear about it. And we're changing things down there.
The children that have come to me for the last year and a half just grow. They come into Waypoint and they come into base camp, and they're just excited to be there. Smith shouted out the other day, "I love my church."
Yeah, one of the highlights for probably both of us was having Wes marry us.
Being baptized there was definitely one of my coolest moments. And being in front of the church and thinking of that moment ever since I was little.
For this Easter, I feel like coming to the 5-year celebration, and right now we're studying back there how Jesus made and God made each of the children. And I think it's important also to know on the other side what Jesus did for these children, but they know exactly why they're here on Easter Sunday, and I absolutely love that.
For the Waypoint 5-year anniversary for me, I love our church. I love how everyone's involved with our church. Like, if you have an idea, don't say it out loud because you'll be running it. But I like that. We're not just standing around. Everybody in that congregation is involved somehow, some way, with outreach, with service work, with just helping each other. I love that. Where have you seen God and where do you need God?
And we were sitting there thinking and talking last night of like what Waypoint would mean to us. And I was running this morning with Thea and I thought of the word compass. How I go to it for direction, how I go to it for guidance, and that magnet pull again, how it keeps just pulling us together, to God, to each other. Just, it's very cool.
People want to be here. I want to be here every Sunday. I'm sad when we're even on vacation sometime.
Literally at Wes's sermons, I feel like we could ask a question like, sorry man, could you explain that a little more? And he would. And that's the kind of worship I want to be a part of.
I recently received an email of someone telling me their friend was going to visit Waypoint. And I thought, well, I hope they come more than once, because one time's just not enough to really get a feel for what we do at Waypoint. And the good news about that is that it always feels fresh and it's very personal. Every week someone gets up and you get to hear about their lives, and it's just 5 years into this, I'm just more excited and more interested than ever.
I think my favorite part of Waypoint is the prayer and praise, for sure. I love that people will stand up and be honest and really share their heart, and that we will actually really pray for them. And then the praise is to hear how God is working in their life. I think that's so unique. I've just never been in a church like that before.
I've been through several church communities, and bigger's not always better, and I think impactfulness sometimes works better in smaller circles and in smaller communities.
I think it's just the joy that we see on their faces. I mean, and really the camaraderie of, being together and all loving Jesus but having fun at the same time.
When we started coming to Waypoint, we knew that we just had to keep coming back. We looked forward to each Sunday. It wasn't just something to check off the checklist, but it was something that we really eagerly looked forward to.
We're still here about 20 minutes after church, just all talking and getting a chance to know each other. Well, I love the fact that our children love coming here. There's a lot of young couples with babies, and then there's a lot of older, wiser people. So there's just this cross-section of multi-generational people.
As a mom, it's so exciting to see what our children will grow up into and have such a great community of faith, have friends our age and then generations older that just invest in our children, invest in us.
Not just come and see, but go and do it.
If you think about Waypoint in our worship, in our family, in our marriage, in our friendships, it's unbelievable. Every aspect of our life now, I would say.
I was encouraged through Waypoint to have a Bible study in my community, and invited women. There's so many best moments from Waypoint.
Happy 5-year Waypoint!
Happy birthday, Waypoint!
Happy anniversary, Waypoint!
Happy 5 years, Waypoint!
Happy 5 years, Waypoint!
Happy 5-year anniversary, Waypoint!
Happy 5-year anniversary, Waypoint.
Happy 5-year Waypoint!
Happy 5-year Waypoint!
It's a mama singing songs about the Lord. It's a daddy spending family time the world says he cannot afford. These simple moments change the world. It's a pastor at a tiny little church, 40 years of loving on the broken and the hurt. These simple moments change the world. Dream small, don't buy the lie, you've gotta do it all. Just let Jesus use you where you are, one day at a time. Live well, loving God and others as yourself. Find little ways where only you can help. With His great love, a tiny rock can make a giant fall. Dream small. It's visiting the widow down the street, or dancing on a Friday with your friend with special needs. These simple moments change the world.
Not ready yet. I gotta focus right now.
bigger dreams. Just don't miss the minutes on your way to bigger things, no. 'Cause these simple moments change the world. So dream small, don't buy the lie, you've gotta do it all. Just let Jesus use you where you are, one day at a time. Live well, loving God and others as yourself. Find little ways where only you can help. With His great love, a tiny rock can make a giant fall. So dream small. Keep loving, keep serving, keep listening, keep learning, keep praying, keep hoping, keep seeking, keep searching. Add up the small things and watch them grow bigger. The God who does all things makes oceans from rivers. So dream small, don't buy the lie, you've gotta do it all. Just let Jesus use you where you are, one day at a time. Live well, loving God and others as yourself. Find little ways where only you can help. With His great love, a tiny rock can make a giant fall. Yeah, 5 loaves and 2 fish can feed them all. So dream small.